Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. It's August 18th, 2022. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window do not appear in the recording. And if you'd like to put your contact information in the Zoom chat window, you're welcome to connect with everybody else who's on the call today. That way you can expand your LinkedIn connections. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put your questions into the Zoom chat window. And for those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions in the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website almost 10 years ago called careerusa.org to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas, around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It's available on Amazon, and if you, I also have them. If you find me in person, I'll have them usually with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007, and we've got a great, very interesting program tomorrow, and I'll tell you about that at the end of the session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. I'd like to remind you that your resume and your LinkedIn profile will not get you a job. All it does is get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills is what's going to get you your next job. So if you have any questions or information, reach out to dallaspitcrew.com. Oops. All right. Let me switch presentations here. I'm going to be talking today all about, let's see here, just switch. Oop, I need to do a new share. Hold on. Here we go. So I'm going to do the, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see here. Let's get it loaded back up again. Give me just a second. I clicked on the wrong thing. Here we go. All right, so our agenda today, we're going to talk about the first part of the session. We're going to talk about the ATS system. We'll talk about a one-page bio. We'll talk about a master resume. We'll talk about the key components of a resume. And then if anybody would like to submit their resume, you can send it to me, and we will share that resume so that other people can see it. If nobody shares, we'll just sort of move on for the day. So the first thing we want to talk about the ATS system. So there's some basic resume writing rules that will help put you ahead of the competition. The person who wrote these suggestions here is the manager of Coach Connect at the Muse. That's the website for career research. So her number one suggestion for basic resume writing rules is avoid spelling and grammatical errors. You have got to make sure your spelling's correct. Just think about this. If a recruiter gets a couple hundred resumes, they're looking to weed out a resume for any reason whatsoever. They don't like the formatting. There's not enough white space. Whatever it is, the recruiter they've got to find 10, 12 resumes that they really like that they then want to spend more time and investigating to call up. So if you have a spelling error or grammatical error, that will get you kicked out right away, okay? So just be very, very careful about that. The second thing is watch your tenses. If you used to work at a company, make sure that everything is in the past tense. If you're currently working, you may have a project that's been in the past tense, but everything else you're doing should probably be in current tense. And we'll talk more about that. I'll show you an example of that a little bit later on. When you send your resume to somebody in person, send it as a PDF file. Now, the reason to do that is because when you send a PDF, it will always look exactly like you want it to look. If you send me a Word document, there's a very good chance, probably 99 out of 100% chance, that I have a different printer than you have. My default printer is going to format your Word document the way I want it formatted. And there's a good chance that things are going to be jumbled up and messed up. So whenever you send a resume to somebody, always send it as a PDF file. Make sure your resume is easy to read. Okay, you don't want big blocks of text, no more than 3 lines of text in one section. White space is good. You want to make it easy for people to be able to read your resume. And you've got to quantify the bullet points as much as possible. Use dollars, percent, numbers. Everything you do, you need to quantify. When your resume reads like a job description, that doesn't tell me what you did. That tells me what you were supposed to do. When you submit a resume with details that you've quantified, that tells me what you could do for me. Number 6, name drop and title drop. You want to make sure that if you know someone in the company, you may want to mention when you send it in that, I happen to know so-and-so, and be able to help move you in to do something. And if the person, if you know their title, use that information in the email. Use your judgment when it comes to being creative. You've got to be very careful. People don't want to see things that are really, really fancy because they're used to seeing a standard resume format. So if you're going to be a little creative, if you want to use a little bit of creativity, just be very careful because you don't know how it's going to work. You do not want to list everything you've ever done. A little bit, we're going to talk about a master resume. And the master resume is everything you've ever done. When you send a resume in, you want to make sure that resume matches the job description. Okay, you want your resume for somebody brand new out of college who has no idea what the job is that they're trying to find people for. All they have is this job description. They're trying to find somebody who matches that job description as close as possible. Be sure to think about the person reading your job. I mean, we've already talked, I just mentioned that. There's a very, very good chance that the initial recruiter doesn't know exactly what that position does, especially in a big, large company. Okay, they could be brand new. They just got hired out of college. They got a job description. Go find me 5 people who match this job description, and they may ask a few questions about it, but they're not going to have a good understanding. So make your resume match that job description when you send it in. And then think about specific jobs that you're applying to. You've got to make sure, don't just randomly go apply, because you can so easy to do that nowadays. Think about, is this really a job? Am I really qualified to do this? Is this a company that I want to work for? So those are just some things that the Career Connect at the Muses wanted to talk about. So here's some guidance from the Resume Writers and Career Coaches of America, okay? Number 1, once again, easy to read. I think is very, very important. Number 2, you want to make sure your resume is free from spelling, punctual, and grammatical errors. Does this sound familiar from what we just heard? You want to make sure you spell out acronyms. So you can see people, if you ever seen the acronym DMA, Dallas Museum of Art. It has other DMA. I mean, there's lots of other things that could be a DMA. I mean, if you're a CPA or a project manager, a PM, that's fine. But anything else, any other acronyms, spell the acronym out. You can use the acronym and then spell it out the first time so people know exactly what it is. Be sure to focus on skills related to the target job. So once again, only talk about what it is in their job description. Make it easy to match. You've done a lot of other really great things, but you can talk about those other things when you actually get an interview. Be sure to include quantitative and qualitative accomplishments. We've talked about that for every bullet point. And no graphics, no pictures, no underlines, no boxes, because an ATS system is not going to be able to handle that very well. There's well over 100 different ATS systems out there. They're all designed a little bit differently. You don't know which one you're applying to. You don't know what their rules are. So make your resume as plain and simple when you send something into an ATS system. So let's talk a little bit about a resume versus a one-page bio. A resume says, hey, I'm looking for a job. Help me, help me. I'm looking for a job. A bio you can use in lots of other situations for informational interviewing. If you're giving a speech someplace, a bio is a much lower key kind of thing. It tells people, here's what I do, but it doesn't say, hire me, I need a job. A resume focuses on work history details with credentials, but a bio focuses on a couple major accomplishments. A resume is primarily a search tool. A bio, you can use it for many, many situations. So here's one example of a bio. In the chat window in a little bit, I will put a couple bios that I'll put some examples that you can download if you'd like to do it. But if you notice on a bio, you have a picture. You mention a few things as far as what it is you've done. You have your professional biography, your education, and then over on the right-hand side, contact information and a few bullet points of accomplishments and things you've done, successes you've had. Here's another example. Now, the difference really between these two, besides formats, is over on the very right, this person actually lists target functions, job titles that they're looking for, and target companies. Be very careful when you list target companies. If you're going to send this to somebody who works at a company, make sure their company is the first one on the list. You may not want to list any other companies because they're going to say, well, why? You're looking for jobs at other companies too. You're just not looking at us. So be very, very careful. And most importantly, make sure their company is on the list. The person who originally put this thing together says that when he first sent it out, he sent it out to a company, and the guy says, well, my company's not even on your target list. Why should I even consider looking at your resume? So just be aware of those couple of things if you happen to list target companies. If you want a great book, and I highly, highly recommend this book. This is one of the 3 books I think everybody should have in their career library. It's called Be Sharp by Minna Brown and Paula Asanoff. This is the 2nd edition. You want to make sure you get the 2nd edition because the 2nd edition has in the back half of the book around 30 or 40 different bios that you can look at, different formats, the way they're worded, the way they're formatted, really, really good. Over on the right-hand side here, you see Minna Brown's bio. This is a lot fancier than most bios, but she uses this as an ad piece because she's a executive coach. She's a public speaker, and she trains other people on how to do this. So this is more of a PR ad for her. So it's a little bit fancier of a one-page bio. So let me take a break here. Okay, so let's talk about a master resume. I mentioned before that you only want to send the details when you see a job description. You just send the details of what they're looking for from your resume when you send it in. Your master resume is a document you can put together at the beginning of your job search, and you never have to touch it again. Because what you do is you list your master resume you list everything you've ever done since college. Okay, and if you have any college internships you've done that relate to what you're doing, list those on there too. Dates, managers' names, addresses, 8 or 10 bullet points, success stories you had in each one of those jobs. So that thing can be 10 or 15 pages long. Then when you apply for a job, you take the job description, you take your resume, that master resume, save it as, however you name things, and then start eliminating everything that's not in the job description. Make number 1 match number 2. Very, very important. Okay. This way you're making it easy for them to see. And you don't have to think about, well, I did this back. What job did I do this? And what was it? What were the results? So if you come up with your master resume, you're good to go. And when you get your next job, you just add another section to it, and it could be an extra page long or whatever it is. You never send that master resume out, but it's something that makes it easy for you to apply for other jobs. Let's see here. Yeah, and you list all the areas of your expertise, any certifications, any patents, any books you've written, software skills. You list it all in one big document. Make it easy so as you apply for a job, you can, you don't have to think about what you've done. All right, so characteristics of a good resume. The goal of a good resume for an ATS system is to make sure that the ATS system and screeners can determine that you're a good match for the job. So number one, your formatting. And we're going to talk about formatting in a second. I'll show you the basic format that we like to talk about all the time. The overall length. You know, if you're brand new to the job, if you're brand new in your career, you've only been doing it for a few years, maybe only had 1 or 2 jobs, you probably can get your whole resume on 1 page. 2 pages for most people. Maybe once in a while you can go 3. You got to remember, nowadays people don't print out resumes, so they're really not going to know it's 3 pages, you know, unless you break it up and say page 2 or 3, page 3 or 3. If you don't do that and just have 1 long Word document or 1 long PDF file, they may never realize that it's more than 2 or 3 pages long. But if it relates to what you're trying to do, you want to include it. So one of the questions that always pops up is, how many years should I put on my resume? So here are 3 options, and you're welcome to go in the chat window and tell us what you think. So option 1 is you show all of your experience, everything you've ever done. Number 2, show only the most recent 10 to 15 years. And option 3, just call a section with the most recent 10 to 15 years and a section called prior relevant experience. So let me know what you think. A, B, or C, put it in the chat window so I know what you're doing. I'll give you a second here to do that. For those watching on Facebook, you can just put it in the comment field. All right, we've got a couple of people saying B. All three people say B. All right, well, it's really whatever you feel comfortable with. Primarily, though, I like to use C, and that you'll see that you'll see that in the sample resume that we have. And the reason we like C, the reason we recommend C, is that by having a section called prior relevant experience, that gives you permission to talk about something you did before what's listed on your resume. Because you may have a great star story from something you did 20 years ago, but you know, you're not really mentioning it because you haven't worked there in 20 years or whatever, but it gives you permission. You can't tell a star story. If you're in an interview, your star stories have to relate to what's on your resume. So by having that prior relevant experience list on your resume, that gives you permission to talk about something you did before the details you have in your resume. And like I said, we'll show you how to do that here in our sample resume in just a second. Okay, fonts for your resume. Arial, Calibri, Tacoma are okay. I like those. I like Helvetica. I'm not a fan of Times New Roman, Garamond, or Calibri, Cambry. And the reason being is I like a plainer text. I like, if you notice, Times New Roman has a little serifs on it, the little pieces on the top of the T and the end and the R. I'm a fan of Arial, Calibri, Tacoma. You know, Calibri allows you to put a little bit more information on there. Keep a 10, 11, or 12-point font. You don't want it so small that somebody can't read it. None of the fancy fonts, no wingdings. If you're going to add some kind of special character, you can put the bullet like you see here, but don't put any stars, little telephones, check marks, because many ATS systems can't handle that. But every ATS system I'm aware of can handle the dot like you see there. You want to make sure your margins are generally 1 inch right, left, top, and bottom. You want space. You want white space. White space is good. You don't want to go margin to margin with text because it's overwhelming to somebody. You want to make it easy for them to read. We've talked about bullets, bold, underline, italics, shadows, graphics, no, italicized, no. You maybe can underline something occasionally if you want it to really stand out and you want something to be bold. You'll see some places here where you do all bold or you do all uppercase letters or stuff like that. But once again, make it very, very simple. And then do not use text boxes, headers, footers, or any kind of template. You want your resume to be template free, header free, footer free, because many ATS systems won't see that and that stuff will just disappear. You don't want to have a text box on the right and one on the left. It's just not going to work very well. Many ATS systems won't be able to pick that up. One of the questions we get a lot is, how do you fill a gap on your resume? I haven't worked in 2 years since COVID started. What should I do? How can I handle that? Well, one of the things you can, hopefully you've been volunteering, hopefully you've been doing something. So you can talk about that you've done some community leadership, you've done some consulting. If you've had some part-time gigs, I wouldn't list 6 or 7 part-time gigs, but I would list it consulting, and you've worked for company A, B, C, D, and E, if you can mention those company names. If you've gone back to school to get an MBA or to get a continuing education or to finish your degree, I would list that in there so it fills that slot so you know what's going on. A couple bullet points, to describe your work, consulting work that you've done, even if it's pro bono for a nonprofit organization. If you've done any volunteering work, leadership, what kind of skills, what did you do? If you've achieved any certifications, mention that. So here's an example of a couple things that you could do. Community leadership and consulting. Served as a panelist and a coach for the Dallas practice interview team, PIT crew, to help job seekers with their interview skills. You provided consulting services to a local nonprofit organization on how to prepare to conduct job interviews and how to evaluate candidates. This happened to be from an HR person who was out for a little while. So this is what she put down on her resume to do it. And people say, oh, well, tell me more about the practice interview team. That's really nice that you were helping coach other candidates and stuff. So once again, it's a great way how to, talk about what it does. If you were a caregiver for a parent, you can put that down, caregiver for a parent, and list, responsible for medication, for help, for what, things you were responsible to do. But you always want to make sure that one of the lines in there says that the situation is taken care of now. I'm no longer have those responsibilities or something. Let people know that that was in the past. Okay, so there's some key components of a resume we're going to go over, just some main things. So number one is you've got to have a header. You need to have a short little summary statement. Key accomplishments. If you're in sales, now the old joke is everybody's unemployed, you're in sales because you're trying to sell yourself and do a job. But if you're a true salesperson and you had quotas and accomplishments, those are the kind of things you could throw in here. It's a very optional place to put it in. You then want to have your professional experience listed. Then prior relevant experience, optional of course, but I think you should list it because you never know if you've got a story from the past you want to tell, you need to have that job listed. And you don't put any dates, you just list the name of the company and maybe your job title. Your education, you want to list your education and then any software skills you have. So in the header, you're going to put the name, and it's the name you want to be called. So my name is Jeffrey Morse, but I go by Jeff Morse. I want people to call me Jeff, so I always use Jeff Morse. Now, if I had a hard to pronounce last name, I would even, in parentheses, phonetically spell it out. Make it easy for somebody to pick up the phone, because you never know. A recruiter who's looking at these resumes will go, I'm not gonna call this, I can't even pronounce that name. So if you've got a tough last name, phonetically spell it out. Make it easy for them to know. Phone number, city, state, and zip. You do not need a physical address. We don't need to know your local address. You can fill that out on a job application, but on your resume, just put city, state, zip. Just helps people. A lot of people, when they're doing searches, put searches in, 25 miles of a certain zip code. You want your email address and your LinkedIn address. Make sure that both of those are not hyperlinks. You know that when you type an email address or a LinkedIn address into Word, it will automatically make it blue and put the underline on it. Take that off. The reason being, just remove the hyperlink, because some resumes, some ATS systems can't handle a hyperlink. Most can, but some can't. And you never know, you would hate for your thing to be submitted and then there's no email address or no LinkedIn address for them to look you up. All right, the next thing you want is a summary and a profile. Now, please note here that the summary statement is not an objective. It's not what you're looking to do. It's what do you do and how you can help somebody. So this is a business analyst. So first of all, you want the title of the job you're applying to. If you're applying for a business analyst and you've been a business analyst, put down business analyst. If you haven't done the job before, you've got to be a little bit more careful about what you list there, but you want that job title, if you can, to match the job title of the job description. And then you're going to talk about innovative business analyst with a proven track record. So what you're doing is you're telling somebody what it is you've done and how you can help them. Then you're going to have a few areas of expertise. And I recommend 9. 9 is the maximum you should have. You don't really need to list computer skills because you can do that in a separate section. Now, if you're in IT, yeah, you may want to have a section just of computer skills of all the different computer programs, C++, Python, whatever it is you've done, have a whole section underneath this. But your area of expertise should sort of be general. One of the questions that I ask when I'm interviewing people with the practice interview team all the time is, so tell me what your top 3 skills are. And they'll go and say, oh, well, user interface design, developing test planes, and customer facing roles. Well, those aren't even the top 3 things on here. So make sure that whatever your top 3 skills are either the top 3 along the top line or over on the left-hand side. So you just want to make sure that they're in one of these 2 places, because that reinforces that you say, well, my top 3 are agile, relationship management, and creating process flowcharts. I just love putting those together. That will solidify more about what it is you do. All right, this next section, which is optional, called key accomplishments. This is where you, as a salesperson, you're going to put 3 or 4 bullet points that show your accomplishments as a salesperson, what you've accomplished, major dollars, number 1 salesperson, blah, blah, blah. Just remember, though, you only have to do this in your sales. Otherwise, skip this. And these accomplishments should also be in the description of your jobs, because, so yeah, you did this 120% of 1.5 sales in 2019. Well, which job did you do this in? Don't make me have to figure out, wait, 2019, oh, that was in this job. You want to be sure to list it twice. Your next section here is your professional experience. It needs to be chronological. Some people say, well, what about a functional resume? 99.9% of people do not like functional resumes. We are used to reading chronological resumes. That's what you need to keep it as, okay? Make it simple to do that. So keep it chronological. Number 2, you want to be sure to use parallel verbs. Now, we talked about that earlier, using proper tenses. What do I mean by that? So in the current job, this top job, the things that are in red are in present tense. The things that are in blue are in past tense. So if the job was in the past, you want to make sure it's in past tense: engaged, translated, reduced, facilitated, saved. For the current job, analyze, ensure, serve, those are current tense. But he did achieve a 50% improvement for something, a project that he worked on in the past. So that one could be in the past. So just make sure that your verbs are correct, because once again, I know recruiters that will throw out a resume because of a tense that's incorrect. I say you should include a 1-line description of the company. I think it's real important. Now, yeah, even if you work for IBM or Crest or Procter & Gamble, yeah, we know that, but it's still, there's so many firms out there that, I've been doing this for 14 years now. There's so many firms, new companies that I hear about. I've never even heard the name of the company, but I don't even know what they do. So include a little one-line description underneath the name of the company A, comma, city, comma, state. And then you want to list, there was a Fortune 500 company specializing in blah, 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 whatever it is. Just say what it is you do, because it will help quantify where you've been, because everybody doesn't know the couple million companies that are out there. You want to make sure you limit the number of bullets in a job. I think 5 is all you need to have maximum. The second job down, maybe 4. Second, 2 jobs down, maybe 3. You know, anything past that, just 1 or 2 bullet points, okay? Because, and make sure, you're going to make sure that your bullet points talk about what's in the job description. Because if you don't talk about it, you don't need to mention it. Okay, you can talk about it when you're seeing them in person, but you don't want to bring it up because you want them to call you and make you want to come in. And then be sure, focus on results. You want to see percentages. You want to know that they achieved a 50% improvement. You saved the company $5,000 by evaluating. You reduced data migration time by 90%. So put some results in each one of those things, because those are star stories. And that's going to help you then. You'll have a story on how to tell how you did that. We've talked about keep your bullet points, 5 or 6 bullet points per job, focus on results. Bullet points should not sound like a job description. I see so many job descriptions, so many resumes, and it tells me what you did if you did that, because it sounds like a job description. But it doesn't tell me what you succeeded in, what were the results of you doing those things. I'm looking to hire somebody who does certain things that I need done here. I need to hire a problem solver. I need to know what kind of problems you've solved at your prior position. So a lot of times when you don't know how to give any quantification of what you do, read every bullet point in your resume. And what you want to do is you want to play the so what game. So here in this case, here's an example. This person, he originally put down, guided the next phase of branding evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. So what? Well, this increased the business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. So the new statement is, I increased business opportunities, including 10 new commissions for my client, based on developing a full social media and PR strategy. So I like to start bullet points out with an action verb, in this case, increased. And then you explained what you did. You had a result and how it worked, okay? And yeah, I'm looking for somebody who can do that for me too. I want to talk to this person. But if you just had guided the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist, I'm going, well, that's you and everybody else out there. You're not telling me what you can do for me. What if you had multiple roles at one company? So you worked at one company, you got promoted. I worked for a company back from 87 to 2000, got promoted 4 different times. So how do you do that? So what I recommend you do is, number one, you want to make sure that you have, company B, city, state, you list what it does. You put the total dates, the total length of time over on the very right-hand side, okay? Justify it right. And then the jobs you had, I was a business analyst from 2012 to 2014. I was a system engineer from 2010 to 2012. Put that in parentheses next to the job title that you had. Okay, so this way you can see it shows progression. If you were to put all those dates outright, it could make you look like a job hopper. Okay, but this way you've shown some longevity in one job. How do you handle companies that have changed names? There's a couple ways to do that. Number one, you can give the name of the current company followed by the old name. For example, XYZ Company, formerly ABC Incorporated. Or give the name of the company first, followed by the date of the M&A. ABC Company acquired by XYZ Company in 2008. There was a person who's been on this call in the past, and he works for this company I've never heard of before. And I asked, well, what's that? Oh, well, we used to be called Campbell Soup, and then they changed the name to X, and then they changed it again to Y. We got bought. Well, so my recommendation to him was, you put down that you worked for Campbell Soup acquired by XYZ company, because everybody knows what Campbell Soup is. Nobody knows what XYZ company is. Okay, that's name brand. If you've got name brand, use that name brand to your advantage. My daughter, her first job out of college was IBM. And I was so thankful because she will always be able to say that she worked for IBM for 2.5 years, and she'll be able to list it on her resume because you're working for Big Blue. It's a big, giant corporation. So, it's one of those things that if you've got some leverage, you want to make sure you flaunt it, use it and flaunt it. Education and software skills. You want to list the degrees you have. You don't have to put when you got those degrees unless it was like in 2021. If you just got it, you may want to list it. But if it's something that you've had in the past, just list, the degree, what the major was, the name of the school, city and state. And then underneath that, list your software skills. Now, if you're an executive, you don't need to list Microsoft Word, Excel, and Outlook, because everybody needs to know those things regardless. But if you're an admin, or if you've got some special skills like Access or Visual Studio or something else, you want to list those, Python, whatever computer skills, software skills you've got. List anything that's unusual. But if they list in the job description, you put it on your resume. So if they list Microsoft Office, if they list Microsoft Office, be sure to put Microsoft Office on your resume. If you don't have a degree, you should write something like this: city, the school name of the school, city, state, dash, major area of concentration, and then in parentheses, put the number of hours that you've acquired. Don't lie, don't say you have a degree that you don't have, because people have been fired over that. Remember the coach at Notre Dame said he had a degree, and 2 weeks later they found out he didn't, and he was out of a job. So be honest with what you've done. Okay, so here, the next step is one of this, and the last things we're going to talk about here is aligning a resume to a job description. So on the left-hand side is a job description. On the right-hand side is a resume. I recommend all you have to do is go and get your yellow highlighter and just sit there and highlight what's important on the resume. Okay, so first thing is business analyst, the job title. Okay, well, that shows up twice on the resume. You make sure that that's what you have at the top of your resume. And then some other keywords here. Business requirements. You make sure you list business. You talk about business requirements in your resume. You talk about improving processes. You make sure that's one of the skills, areas of expertise. Cross-functional. Talk about cross-functionality. That's something you've done. And make sure you don't say cross-functional, because if they're talking cross-functionality, make sure you use the same tenses, because you want that keyword match to happen. Agile, Scrum, Visual Studio. You're making sure that those words, things that they need, here's what you bring to the thing. Make sure you list those things on your resume. Multiple sources, user manuals. They talk about it. You want to make sure you talk about it. Business process flowcharts, user interface design. You make sure that those are over, make sure those keywords are there, because that will make all the difference on your resume. So remember, keywords are very, very important. You want to match keywords from your resume to the job description. If you're a customer relationship specialist, but the last job you had was a customer service rep, well, that's really the same thing. Change that customer service rep to customer relationship specialist so that the terms match. You have to remember that resumes are scanned. Resumes are only looked at for maybe 7 to 10 seconds that first time through. They're just glancing through real quick to go, yes, I'll look at this. I'll put this in the yes pile, or nope. Oh, wait, this one's, I'll look at this one. And then I'll go, and then what they'll do is they'll go back and look at those 10 or 15 really good resumes and go, yeah, this is somebody I want to talk to. Or, well, I have to look at it a little closer. This person really doesn't match up. Your resume will not get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. So you've got to practice your interviewing skills. Just remember, you can send out lots of resumes, But if you're not getting any phone calls, you've got to modify something in your resume to make you so you can get those phone calls. And you know what? And the last thing, I love this last one here. You never know why they called you. You should ask them. Yeah, hey, thank you very much for calling. I really appreciate it. Can you tell me what was it on my resume that made you reach out? Because it could be something on the second page, something you did 20 years ago. You listed a term that went, we need somebody who does that. Okay, so you never ever know. Ask them, because if you find out what's important to them, you know what to focus on. Very, very important. If that's the only thing you take away from today's presentation is, thanks for calling. What was it on my resume that made you reach out? That is an excellent question that you'll benefit greatly from. So normally I'd say I'd take a look at resumes if anybody had a resume to share. Nobody did.
Hey, Jeff, this is Leon. Yeah. I sent you one in your email.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Here we go. All right, give me just a second. I will get that called up. And I'm going to delete your header information. All right, let me share what I've got here. Okay, I think everybody can see this here. So senior content strategist, senior marketing leader driven to best class industry experience. I like that. That's a nice little ad. If you could get that 4 paragraphs down to 3, I think it would maybe, if there's anything you could do to get down to 3, to me, 4 lines of text is just too much. I'll read 3 lines, reading 4 is tough. And you do this a couple of times. So under areas of expertise.
Can you get to a 1-page view?
1-page view, yep. Let's see here, layout. Can move some things around here, I'll view. All right, you want it like this, or you want to view the whole page?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, this way everybody can see it. I mean, if you could get this down to 3 lines somehow, that would be great. If not, I think that's fine. Areas of expertise. Let me move this out of the way too, so I'm not looking at that. Customer line. So here, instead of listing bullet points, you're listing these things. Now, I assume that these results are someplace also in your resume.
I tailor those depending on what the job is. So I have several of those. So
okay. So you just pick a couple of them that you want to talk about for each job. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Professional experience, 2022, develop, support every denizen. Okay.
So this is the one I'm having struggles with because I did a contracting engagement and then a marketing consultant engagement. I wasn't there very long, so I wasn't sure if that looked appropriate. Because I didn't really have, I provided support, but I didn't really have any key outcomes.
Well, I like it just because it just shows you did something in 2022. If you can play the so what game, you supported Avery Dennison Walmart or RFID efforts. So what? I mean, did something come of it? Did you have to look at X number of products? Did you have to, I mean, was there some kind of, if there's something, I mean, what would the story be that you would tell about that?
I developed a gifting strategy for DirecTV and supported Walmart effort IDs. I wasn't there long enough to have like a key outcome.
Okay.
But I see where you're going. I have to kind of think it through.
Yeah, I mean, to stop and think about it, even if you're there for a short period of time, you help guide them into their, what was the gifting strategy? I mean, did they come up with a new campaign? Did they come up with a new something? I mean, just something that, I mean, because if you're going to list it, you need to have a star story for every bullet point on your resume. So what's your star story here? What's your situation, task? Why do you have to do it? And what was the result? And, you know, that's so what? Because if you're going to talk about it, I know in the practice interview team, when we interview people many times, it always turns into, sometimes we have to go and ask, the person will tell a story and one of the panelists has to go and say, so what was the result? Okay, because we want to know you did this, but why? What was the result of it? So if you can come up with something, it would be it would be beneficial.
Yeah, I'm struggling because I wasn't really there long enough. But
right.
Think
Hey,
about
Jeff,
it.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes.
So if you're looking for a role that is similar to what you've done in the past, typically it requires a common skill set. So like I see he has collaboration somewhere there, or it might require some other things. If he didn't have definitive metrics, could he reference here are the common skill sets that he had to use that would help him in a star story relevant to the job that he might be looking for? So for example, every job I have requires collaboration and requires pipeline analysis. If I had to do that, but didn't get the outcomes, then I would at least reference those two key attributes.
Yeah, I mean, that helps you build your star story. Yeah, that's great. If you can build that in, that's great. Let's see, let's head down here, look a bit, accountable. All right, for me, that's too much right there. Okay, I think you need to get that down. If you can get that down to 2 lines, maybe, because could some of this be, you know, here identified inefficiency workflows, that should be a bullet point down here. Okay, that should be one of your, you know, it should be a bullet point. You know, you develop frameworks for enhanced track of you know, that's a bullet point. Okay, I don't, you know, the first 2 lines I think that's fine. You know, if you can get it to 2 lines, that's great. But, you know, the next couple of things, those should be bullet points. And all right, so you've got results, you have results in all these, which is great. So you see what oh, it's because I got rid of your header information. That's why this jumped to a different page here. Let me go enter. I get that down to a new line. Gen X Richardson, social media. Perfect. Okay, so this is great how you did this. This was your, how long you were there. Wonderful. And then you kept all your the little jobs in parentheses. Perfect. We've got lots of results in here, which is great. Other relevant. I think I would use prior relevant experience. I don't think you have to use instead of other. I like the word prior, but everybody's their own little thing here. I'm not sure I'm a fan. Is the Richards group, they always talked about in capital letters. I think I would do upper and lower case for that.
They're branded with capital letters.
Well, they brand it with capital letters. Okay, I didn't know. If that's the way it is, that's fine.
I'll double check.
Yeah. Okay. Education, great. Technology. I wouldn't say familiar with. I mean, are there, when you say marketing automation, are there certain technology names? It seems very generic.
Well, I'm not in it every day, but I know how it works. But I'm not a power user, but I know how to use it.
Is it called, is marketing automation? Is that the name of it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And there's different systems.
I mean, I would list the systems that you're familiar with. I don't think you need to say familiar with. I would list those systems because there's a good chance in a job description, they're going to say, I want somebody who knows, you know, product X.
Yeah, and I always tailor those to the job description.
Do you? Okay, very good. Activities and honors, natural system. I'm not a fan of this you know, I mean, I don't know. I think that's extra necessary text.
And then I've been sometimes putting the cover letter at the end. I don't know if we should be doing that or not, but sometimes I don't, but.
So sometimes you attach your cover letter. You know, that's a trick that I used to use all the time. I used to always make my cover letter the first page of my resume. And the first page of my resume was the second page of my attachment. And the second page of my resume was the third page of the attachment. So that it would be attached and be one document to make sure that it all got passed around together.
So you would have it be the first page, and
I used to do that. I don't know. I'd have to ask some other people what people are doing now. Listen, a lot of people don't even read them.
Right. Right. I don't do it all the time, but if I'm going to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, I'll go ahead and include it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I definitely think it's something something to consider, something good. So, you know, I think the whole key is here, and you said it several times, I customize it to the job description. And to me, that is the important thing. That's what you want to make sure you do, is customizing your resume to that job description, so that you're making it easy for the recruiter or the hiring manager to know exactly what it is you do, and that you're doing what we're looking for, that we're here to solve somebody's issue. Does anybody else have any questions or comments before we end?
Jeff, I sent you my resume as well. I sent one email as a PDF and one as a text doc or a Word doc.
All right, well, I'm just about out of time here. So I tell you what, if you want, I will give you, I'll look at it and give you some, I'll send you back some comments on it. And if
great.
you want, and we can show it at the next time we do this, the first Thursday in September. Oh, I believe September's almost here, but we can do this again in a couple weeks. But I'll send you some comments back personally on what to do here. Let me put a few documents into the chat window. Sample resume, some cover letters here. Let's see here. This is a good document. I'm going to put 4 or 5 documents into the chat window. Here's the resume. Here's a one bio. Here's the second bio. Here's a T cover letter that if you're interested in, if you are going to send a cover letter, a T cover letter. And what a T cover letter says is, you're looking for this, I've done this. So you're just 2 or 3 things about, you're looking for this is how I can help you, this is what I've done. So I put all those documents in the chat window. I think if you click on them, it'll download. Just know where you're downloading them to so you can get to them, and we'll be able to help everybody there. All right, let me pop this last little couple slides up on here. Whoops, close this out. So if you were not able to download them, you can always send me a email to resume@careerdfw.org and just let me know what you're looking for, and I will get those documents to you. Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Tomorrow morning, as I said, we have a very interesting presentation all about vetting values and culture. What is a company's culture? How do you vet their values? How do you know what your values and culture needs to be? Walt Glass has put together a presentation. It is jam-packed full of information. We will have a handout with all the details after. We'll send out to everybody who's joining us tomorrow, but you'll be able to get this handout, and it's got a lot of really, really good information. He's put a lot of hours in trying to vet this information out for us, and so we'll see his presentation tomorrow morning. Next Tuesday, for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Ruth Lipsky will be with us to talk about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. Next Wednesday, hopefully you'll be able to watch a practice interview, a real practice interview If you'd like to schedule your own practice interview, just reach out to dallaspicrew.com, and there's information there on how you can do that. And then next Thursday, being the fourth Thursday of the month, we will talk all about networking. We have a different speaker every other week talking about networking. So join us next Thursday. This session has been recorded. It will be uploaded onto the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, every time I post a new video, you get an email about it. But if you just go to the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, we've got almost 400 videos on there. Then you pick the playlist that you want. Every video I upload, I put into a different playlist, and you can click on the View Full Playlist, and up will come a list of the most recent speaker on top and what we've talked about, and you can go through and see the current topics and go back and watch these at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to careerusa, +subscribe at groups.io. You will never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can just grab your lunch or breakfast and join us for our meeting on Zoom. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has been as a volunteer to help you land your next great opportunity. Please consider making a donation. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great rest of Thursday. I know I got a little bit of rain here in Dallas, and I'm looking forward to more rain here shortly. So have a great afternoon, and we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow morning.